Hi, thanks for joining us for our third and final instalment of What Tech Candidates Want, an in-conversation mini-series with Lorien. I'm joined again by Darren Topping, Business Solutions Director at Lorien, and we're talking about another one of the key themes that came out of the Contractor and Candidate Sentiment report and survey that we did earlier this year. Today we're talking about contractors and contingent workers, and the theme, it takes more than money. Our research suggests that contractors expect much more from their employers today than just a good day rate and a convenient location. Even though 95% of contingent workers name an attractive salary as their number one priority when job hunting, our results suggest a much more complex picture, where contractors rank work-life balance, flexible working and remote working as highly desirable. 33% of contractors consider stimulating and challenging work as extremely important, and 32% said the same of internal company culture. So as the skills shortage in tech widens and permanent headcount is at a premium due to the pandemic and having limited resources, contingent workers will be a valuable resource for plugging gaps and short-term skills needs. So tapping into the triggers for what makes a job attractive for contingent workers will be really important. So we're talking today about the contractor value proposition, or CVP. Darren, what is the CVP and how does that differ to the employer value proposition?
Well, in some ways, it's exactly the same as your normal employer value proposition, where at the moment we expect it to be far more focused on job security. But the CVP is much more aligned to what contractors want. If you're an organisation who regularly uses contingent workers, and we do expect this to increase as a side effect of COVID and organisations wanting a bit more flexibility, you'll need to consider a CVP to make sure that you can attract the very best contractors on the market. And I would suggest that even at this early stage that an IR35 strategy with true decisioning will be essential to this. In summary, your CVP is, aside from rate, why would a contractor pick to work for you over a competitor? And it's important that you think about what that is, you build it into something formal and you put it out there into the system.
Is a high rate always a trump card? Because there's obviously the other piece around, nurturing and the environment and some of that flexibility, but it is still, as the data shows, really important to contractors, although potentially less so versus job security in the current environment. But is that high rate a trump card? Will that always do it? And how do smaller companies with limited budgets or resources, how do they compete for that top talent?
I think a rate is always important. I don't necessarily think that having the highest rate on the market is essential to get the top talent, but I do think you need to be, amongst your competitors on rate. But it may surprise some people, but it's absolutely not a trump card. There's definitely at the moment a trade-off between flexibility and a higher rate, and security over a longer contract, longer notice periods, and a higher rate. But like all of us, contractors want to work in a really supportive and progressive environment. Culture is really important to them, and more than permanent workers, I would suggest contractors really care about the projects that they're working on. They want to work on really stimulating and challenging tech. So if you are working on those projects, you need to shout about it because that is really appealing. So any of those factors together in combination can definitely trump higher rates. But like with the CVP and harking back to that a little bit, we find out that a lot of organisations do some really great stuff, but they just don't shout about it and talk to tech candidates about it. So I think that's my number one top tip for this section really is look at what you do that is good and make sure that you talk about it in the marketplace.
Thanks. And last question today, perhaps an open-ended question. No one could have kind of predicted 2020, but even before the current environment, the flexible working and contractors and the contingent workforce was on a certain path and a certain trajectory. What does the future of contingent workforce look like, in your opinion?
I've been saying it for quite a while, but I just think the flexibility will increase, and by that I don't mean the flexible nature of how workers, whether they're in the office or not. I mean more flexibility around the vehicles in which the contractors work through. And I think clients' expectations of organisations like Lorien will be to ensure that contractors and contingent workers work through the best, most productive vehicle for them. So, for example, outcome-based assignments, employed consultants, gig workers who might only do 4 hours a week, things like that. I think there'll be much larger focus on the productivity and the outcome of roles as opposed to what the model looks like and what the vehicle looks like. So I think if I was to to say what the future of the contingent workforce look like. I think, yeah, be much more flexible in the vehicles at which people operate under.
I would agree. I think the most progressive companies are already examining different ways to bring flexible workforce into their business and the best ways to engage with them. So yeah, I would completely agree with your answer. Thanks very much, Darren, and thanks everyone for joining us for our final instalment.
Thanks very much.